Open your mind.
Hello, good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
It's Sunday the 25th of June 2017 and we have a packed show tonight, loads of information, and we have two guests on the show tonight. Our first guest is a guest that has been on before. This is part two, and his name is Stan Deyo. Loads of information from Stan, well experienced on the chat shows, on the radio shows, and loads of background information. We'll be giving Stan's bio out shortly and getting Stan on. The second guest we have on is a chap called Dr. Eamonn Ansbro, and he's going to be doing a talk at the BASIS conference in September, which was where we're going to be as well. So we're going to get Eamonn on about probably around 8:30 and just have a quick chat with him to find out what he's going to be talking about on the BASIS conference. So before we do anything, let's find out what the communication channels are.
Okay, the communication channels this evening are...
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Yes, the phone number again, 046 927 1212. If you'd like to call in during the show, or if you want to call in from outside the Republic of Ireland, the phone number will be 00353 469 27 1212. As we have mentioned previously, the phone is an internet-based machine, so it can be flaky sometimes. So if you don't get through the first time, please do call again. We also have the chat room. You can navigate your way onto the website, OYMradio.com. You will see all the links there for the Skype, the anti-social media, Facebook, the Twitter. We still haven't figured that one out yet, but we tweet as well. That's on there. We'll also link to the email and, most importantly, the chat room. You can log into the chat room and put in some questions there for our guests this evening. We also monitor the chat room on People's Internet Radio. So log in there, check us out as well. And a big hi to everyone logged into both of the chat rooms. And finally, the application for your smartphone or your iPhone, that is the TuneIn radio application. There is a link to that on the website as well. It's free, and you can listen to us on the go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Alan.
Brilliant, Steve. Right, okay. Now, there was there is talk at the moment regarding Yellowstone and what's going on over there. And there's been information just put out there saying 464 earthquakes in 1 week hit much feared Yellowstone supervolcano. Because the Yellowstone is a caldera, which is like it's like a blackhead. It's not the standard volcano where it goes up at like an angle and then explodes at the top. This is like a big blackhead that you get on somebody's face, and if you burst the bubble, boom, up it goes. And it's a caldera, so it's massive. And basically, it says the supervolcano at Yellowstone National Park has been hit with more than 400 earthquakes since June 12th. Researchers say it's nothing to be alarmed about, though. Yeah, don't they always say that, Steve? When they say don't be alarmed, that's when you should be alarmed.
Yeah.
In a statement to the Star Valley Independent, scientists from the University of Utah, which monitors the volcano, said the earthquake swarms are nothing new. Okay, we'll believe you. Many won't. But something just to check out. Anyway, we might talk to Stan about that, because Stan will probably might have some information on that anyway, because we're going to be bouncing over a number of subjects with Stan, so that's probably going to be one of them there. Steve, over to you.
Richard Genie of the Pain Genie, the energy medicine with Skinar Technology. We're pleased to that release dates for the next Level 2 course with Richard and the Pain Genie have been released. It's going to be June the 30th and 1st of July, and it's the Birmingham Buddhist Centre. That's 11 Park Road, Moseley, Birmingham. So anyone who's over in the UK or is going to be in the UK on those dates, if you have your level 1 done and you want to do level 2, that's when Richard's going to be doing it. So you just check out thepaingenie.com and you can fire Richard off an email and take it from there. You can obviously arrange payment and etc. etc.
Brilliant stuff. How's your week, Sid?
My week's been fine, not much to report. Very busy, very, very busy, work-wise. The only one thing that came up on the radar during the week was a story that's been going around the internet of John Hopkins, a retired MI5 operative over in the UK who is 80 years of age, has allegedly just been discharged from hospital. I'm sure people will have seen this one going around Facebook. But he has come out and said that he's nothing left to lose now. He's on his deathbed, and he's been an MI5 operative since the early 70s, and he has done approximately 20 or 30 odd assassinations. And he said he was responsible for assassinating Princess Diana. He went on to say that the order came from his superiors, and it came directly from the palace from Prince Philip. But of course, like everything else, the story goes around. It was on yournewswire.com during the week. I had a look at that, and I seen it, and I checked it out on some other places as well. And it was kind of the same story being repeated by the repeaters. So the chap who allegedly wrote the story, I fired him off an email. I said I was very interested in the story and asked him, would he be able to give me some information in relation to the story, like when the interview was done, times and dates, etc. He never got back to me. So then, like, kind of my spidey senses flared up. So I done another little bit of research, and depending on where you look, there was a website that I looked on, which is Snopes. Snopes.com, which generally it's an okay site for finding out bits and pieces of information, and it's allegedly false. They're saying that the story is false, has no credibility at all, and it's obviously just one of these time wasting exercises that is going around the internet.
No, not fake news by any chance, would it?
Oh, I think it is fake news. Yes, a little bit of fake news. Yeah, so I mean. That's kind of, well, it's blown out of the water now. The only other thing that I heard as well, and I just mentioned it briefly, I don't know if you've heard it, it was to do with Bill Clinton. Allegedly... Not
the drums being dug up on the property, was it?
Yeah, I didn't even know he played the drums.
No, exactly, yeah.
Who would have thought that?
And there was bodies in them, apparently.
Yeah. Have you heard that one?
I've heard that one, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true either, but let's assume it's not.
You just don't know what to believe these days, because they're getting desperate, and they're putting out so much stuff, because basically it sends people down rabbit holes, just to keep them confused and keep them, chasing their tail, basically. Yep. Okay. Yeah,
there you go, that's a short and sweet. How's your week?
Okay, well, yeah, not too bad, few things going on. The one thing that, over here in Ireland, as you all know, the insurance scam, trying to get insurance. One young guy who passed, he's a student, went to get insurance, and they quoted him 14,000. They're trying to stop...
14,000
euros for insurance.
Wow.
They're trying to stop young people driving over here. It's just a complete scam. So I was just thinking during the week, and I was actually attacked for this on Facebook, would you believe? Unbelievable. I was just putting out the idea. I like a good debate, but this woman was actually attacking me. On Facebook, and I'm thinking, hang on a minute, it's stopping here, I'm up to having a chat about it and a debate about it, but I'm not getting into an argument over it, So I said about having an idea regarding the car insurance for young drivers, because my son and Steve's daughter is coming to that age where they probably will want to drive.
Yep.
So I said, I just put out the idea out there, what about having a one-day appreciation course for young drivers, which... they'd be able to get some classroom information about driving and accidents and what causes accidents, and driving experience from somebody from, say, Advanced Gardaí or somebody like that. And at the end they get a certificate saying they completed the course, and this entitles them to 50% discount on their insurance. Now the Gardaí or whoever does it could charge them €150 a day, which means that they get paid some money. And it'd be educating the young drivers and make them more aware. So it's not really about money. It's really making the young drivers aware about the driving. Now, I did a similar course like this in the UK. I did an advanced motorbike course with the actual Metropolitan Police in London. And it was a fantastic day, brilliant weather, went out on the bikes, and we learned an awful lot. But we had a classroom situation for us, and they showed us some accidents, how the bikers died or hurt themselves. And then we went out, one police rider with two normal riders, and they were watching, and we'd swap over, and they were watching our riding and how we took bends and all that kind of stuff, and then we'd stop and talk about it, so it was really, really a great day. I'd recommend doing that.
Did they catch you?
No, but the policeman said, look, we're not going to worry about the Mars bar number plates. But he said, if you go too fast and you get caught by a speed camera, that's your fault. And of course, we did kind of go a bit fast because we knew he was behind us. So anyway, we know the insurance companies are charging too much for young drivers, and they won't have any interest in solving the problem, and maybe the government won't either. At the end of the day, they get loads of money from the insurance companies. So maybe what we need is, we should have some kind of incentive for rewarding drivers and not penalties all the time. Maybe we need to have some kind of co-op, so an insurance company of the people, and have some kind of co-op system and do it that way. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there, so don't attack me. And I know the argument was with this lady during the week saying, oh, more money for the government. And yeah, look, you're missing the point, love. The whole idea is trying to bring the insurance down and educate the drivers. I mean, the driving in Ireland was obviously so bad that they had to put an advert on RTE to show people how to take a roundabout the right way. And she was trying to say to me the driving isn't that bad. Well, I lived in London and I drove in the UK, and trust me, the driving standard over here is bloody terrible.
It is. I'm sorry, I have to agree very, very quickly. I was coming out of a junction there. I was coming home from work on Wednesday, and I was coming out of a junction. I looked left and I looked right. There was a car about maybe 200 yards to my right. He had his indicator on. So as far as I was concerned, he was far enough away that I could pull out safely, but as far as I could tell, his indicator's on, he's making a left-hand turn, he's not going to be coming anywhere near me. So my way was clear, I pulled out, and I think he sped up, he had to have sped up, and he started blowing his horn, and rolled down his window and giving me some hand gestures. So I pointed to his indicator, I said, excuse me, he said, your indicator's on, mate. I said, as far as I'm concerned, you're turning left.
Yeah. That's a novelty thing, indicators.
It was a BMW car, so I'm actually surprised they had the indicators, because normally they don't.
Yeah, there you go, you see. Anyway, before we bring Stan on, just one more thing. As some of you know, I built a raised bed. I put the photos up on Facebook and email, just to give people an idea, if you want to build your own raised bed and have a go at growing some food. I'm doing that at the moment, and I'm pleased to say, I showed Steve last week actually that I think I don't know if you've seen them. The cabbages are coming up. There's a little line of cabbages coming up, and there's a few sprouts of the spring onions and the carrots coming up as well. And I just like the idea of going out the back, pulling it out and bringing it to the house and cooking it. Yeah, and that's it. Take out the middleman, take out the whole system, and of course learning how to work with nature is a great idea, and learning how to grow your own, because Soylent Green. We talk about that movie all the time. What we're getting is not really food. So that's the worrying thing. Anyway, so that's the news anyway. So we're going to bring our guest in. And our guest has been on the show before. His name's Stan Deyo. And he has loads of experience and knowledge of the system and what's going on. Before we bring Stan in, Steve's going to give us a rundown on his bio and his background. Steve.
Okay, I actually have the piece of paper ready and waiting.
Did you like my delay there?
I did, because you see, it was a team effort. Alan could see me struggling with the paper, and he fair play to you. Anyway, yes, as Alan said, our guest this evening is Stan Deyo. Stan has held above top secret security clearance and worked undercover for the FBI. He was part of an exclusive black project headed by Dr. Edward Teller, specialising in the development of flying saucer technology. Stan's diverse background encompasses computer programmer of mainframes in 7 languages, PC and Macintosh, senior systems analyst, research physicist, both formally and self-educated, a marine architect, self-educated, advanced propulsion engineer for marine, air and spacecraft. He's author of 3 books and 6 scientific papers. He's a partner in Deyo Enterprises, LLC, an R&D, website hosting, book publishing and book distribution company for the last 35 years. He's an amateur archaeologist in the Middle East. He's explored real Indiana Jones caves in the Qumran region of Israel. He's also done a TV documentary. He's a TV documentary television host for several shows on Tesla, Eye of the Storm, and a series of 3 highly rated shows on Channel 9 in Perth. UFOs are here, UFOs Deyo, and You and UFOs are back. University lecturer in 3D computer animation and graphic art. He's a biblical student and a public lecturer on world events. That is some bio.
That's some CV. Good evening, Stan. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, guys. Gee whiz, that does read long, doesn't it? I didn't realize that.
Hey, that's a brilliant CV. Loads of experience there. Stan, thanks for coming on the show. The reason why we asked you on is because you are a fountain of knowledge. And, you know, all people have to do is listen to the CV and what you've been involved in. And you do shows and radio shows all the time as well. And we wanted to get you on just to get your take on what you think is happening in the world. Because, you know, we had a quick chat before we went live. And I said, the world's gone nutty. It's gone mad. There's things just gone mad. People and situations, and it's just it just seems we're at a stage where something's going to happen, and I'm not too sure what it is. And from your perspective and where you're sitting, what are you seeing happening? What's coming through your radio shows? That when you do the Hagman report, I think you do a radio show over there. What is being said by people? Have anybody else said things to you about it? What's happening?
Oh, yes. A lot of folks have either emailed or called. They're concerned about various things, geophysical events, like we can talk about Yellowstone in a minute, nuclear war threat here on our own soil, the economy. Things are supposed to be great, but they're not. You know, they talk about all these things, and even about the asteroid that was in near proximity to the Earth yesterday, 250 meters in diameter, I think it was. But anyway, you know, we get worry emails and calls from folks, and we try to put them at ease, because the things that they're worried about, like an EMP wiping out all of their electronics and throwing the world into, you know, the Stone Age again, they panic and they say, well, you know, what do we do? And I say, well, look, you know, if you live through whatever event comes, some, you know, life-threatening event for the whole planet, but if you do survive, you're going to need things to rebuild society. And, you know, seeds and food for you and medicines and things that will last you for a while until you can get things working again on the planet. So if it's something that's so dire that's going to hurt the planet, you know, this talk about Planet X causing, you know, catastrophic earthquakes and things on the Earth, and it may well do that. But if it wipes out all life, whatever this event is, why worry about it? Just prepare yourself to have, you know, a minimum of discomfort in the transition from life to death. I mean, you know, in the meantime, have another beer, talk to the lads at the pub, and, you know, treat life without fear.
Exactly. Well, one of the things that we said, and you agreed with us before the show, is that the whole idea of fear is it's a low vibration, it's a low energy. And we've had guests on the show talking about dilution of energy by certain entities, negative entities. And I can understand the logic in that. Putting people in fear creates this low vibration, this low energy which they feed off. So a long time ago, myself and Steve, and we say this to people all the time, always see stuff as information. Don't see it as positive, don't see it as negative. Just see it as information, and especially with the likes of Planet X. If it is there, I mean, people are seeing something. I mean, we can definitely say that. People are taking photos and they're seeing something. Whether it's Planet X, the destroyer, or wormwood in the Bible, or there's a number of names that people have called it. And whether that's it, I mean, they are seeing something. I don't know what it is. What's your take on that, Stan?
Well, I do believe there's a massive planet, or either a dead twin star to our own sun, that didn't ignite, or if it did, it went out a long time ago. And it's out there beyond the Kuiper belt around our sun. And whatever this object is, and wherever it is out there, it is in our system, and it is pushing down the orbits of Neptune and Uranus, and also for Pluto, if you call that a planet these days. Now, NASA's been trying to find out, and so have a number of university research projects here and in England, been trying to find out how we can pinpoint this massive object that is obviously affecting Jupiter and, Neptune and Uranus. I mean, we've known that there's something depressing their orbits for, 30, 40 years. But finding it even with the technology we have at the moment, is proving a little bit problematic without massive computer analysis of the disturbances. And it's being done, and hopefully they will find it. Now, if that's Planet X, I did calculations last year. I used the standard celestial mechanics formula for calculating positions of planets, and with elliptical orbits and stuff, like they're true orbits, not just something you do on a Excel program or something. And I was able to determine that I think the mean radius of an unknown planet at 75 times the distance of Earth from the Sun, way out there, that there could be an object orbiting in a stable orbit out there with an orbital period, get this, of 3,600 years, plus or minus about 10 years. Now, that even kind of brings to memory the Aztec things about the cycle of the sun. And that could be, the location that they should look for Planet X. But now, it's not a circular orbit out there. That thing orbits really close to the sun when it comes in close, if it is in that orbit, and then goes way, way out, stretched out like a banana, way out of the system. But its average or mean orbit is about 75 times the distance of Earth. And it also dips below the horizon, the ecliptic plane, they call it, when it goes close to the sun.
So this is the every 3,600 years on this orbit that comes in, and then it goes back out. And there's historical information, apparently, that this has happened in the past on several occasions.
Yes, and it, although it may not collide with, say, the inner planets, Mars, Earth, Venus, Mercury, it can affect their orbits, because their orbits are like a very fine fluid in the fluid of space, the ether space. And this thing's orbit will come through and put ripples through those orbits without even having to touch any of the planets. And they'll be like gravitational ripples, is what you'll see. And these can cause extreme events on all the inner planets. Certainly we're interested in what it does. That effect, at maximum, I figure we'll start seeing effects 11 years before it has actually left the system again, gone back out on its long trip. So 5.5 years in, 5.5 years out, at the maximum. And it might be as quick as 7 years.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I'm kind of asking questions about this, and I'm not just going to poo-poo Planet X and put it to one side, you have to ask questions like the Vatican invested in a telescope that can apparently see in the infrared spectrum, and it's in Mount Graham, and it's called Lucifer. They don't go and spend that kind of money if they're just looking for stars, or they're just kind of doing the general astronomy. Plus the fact that we know there's billionaires and millionaires buying up land and getting bunkers done and silos done. Now, that could be nothing got to do with Planet X. That could be a societal breakdown for all we know, and they're just having a backup plan just in case. We also know that there's people like Bush and Merkel who have land in Uruguay. They have land over there and property over there. Quick exit on their plane, fly over, if there's a societal breakdown. So I just think there's something more going on, and we're not being told. Plus the banking system, we know it's a Ponzi scheme, and that's bound to collapse when the derivatives market goes down. We were told that was the first thing to go, because it's just based on fresh air, basically, futures market. And when that goes bang, then everything else is like going to be a house of cards that will tumble down. And that might be as close as around September, October this year. Now, we don't want to get caught up in dates, because before we've been cut out with dates. It's all windows opportunity and things like that, It might not happen at all. But something has to give, because pyramid schemes can only go for so long when they collapse.
Yeah. Definitely, we should never have invented a derivative market. It's, as you say, just betting on thin air. Very thin these days. The threat of an incoming object hitting the Earth, even the Bible says that there will be one, the wormwood star that will fall into the oceans, but it doesn't destroy all life. It destroys the civilization around the impact area. And the sun's also going to do something going very bright and burn a third of the surface of the Earth, which is the amount of the Earth's surface, it's always facing the sun. Whatever day or night, there will only be a third of the surface affected by radiation from the sun. Now, the church, the Catholic Church, got to that Lucifer telescope. They didn't name it that. They asked to buy time on the German project, which named it Lucifer. Which brings us to this point. Now, I covered that in the 2010 edition, the current edition of the Cosmic Conspiracy, in an appendix that I added, because it talks about the return of the real Lucifer posing as our elder brothers in space and trying to bring peace to the Earth, and teach us how to avoid, asteroid impacts and how to have healthy people and all that kind of junk. It's like a V scenario from the movie V.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so are the intellectuals in the know? Are they preparing for that or civil disorder? I think it could be both for sure. I don't know that we can be that accurate about when the announcement of the quote-unquote alien presence is going to be made, but I suspect toward the end of this year, people are going to be crying out for somebody with super knowledge to solve the economy, solve the warfare situation, blah, 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 famine and climate change. And they'll be very receptive to someone who has obvious technology greater than ours, backing a world government and bringing these things to pass. But even that's prophesied in the Bible as a great deception.
Yeah, well, the whole idea of, they love telling us what they're planning to do or trying to do via Hollywood. And as you mentioned, you have V, the movie, which they released again. And also we had Len Kasten on the show, and he had he released a book there called Alien World Order. And he was talking about, the whole ET side of things. And we said it to our listeners, what if, just contemplate this fact, what if we are not at the top of the food chain? What if the movie Jupiter Ascending is correct and we are cattle on a planet and we're being loosed by them?
Right. Are you asking? Yeah.
Yeah. Even as a topic of conversation, even if that wasn't a possibility or that's not not happening, even as a kind of an open topic to discuss, just to say, what if we are not at the top of the food chain? Again, there's movies out there like Jupiter Ascending and the what's the Twilight Zone in the 60s, How to Serve Man.
Yeah.
And there's been a number of movies like that being coming out, and as you know, Hollywood is being used. But whether that's just them trying to do the fear factor again and just trying to program people so that they're in fear, that could be their game. The whole idea of the climate change, and we know the weather patterns are getting worse. I'm not going to put it down to climate change because I think that's the whole carbon tax thing. But I do think on a planetary basis, maybe Gaia is changing. Maybe there are changes going on the planet because we're seeing severe weather. We're seeing countries being affected by weather they've never been affected by before. We're seeing sinkholes happening, and volcanoes going off, and just really weather that we've never experienced. What would you put that down to?
Well, the changes are, I think, a normal progress in the aging of any spinning planetary or even solar body. The things do change; they're not constant. You mentioned earlier in the last few sentences here that what about us being cattle? Like the TV shows have indicated, in like the movie V, and I say yes. In the book of Enoch, it talks about the giants, the fallen ones, or the hybrid between off-worlders and human women, turn to consuming humans. Like the fairy tales about the giant that ate people. So there is a class above us, taller and faster, that have, according to Enoch, used humans as fodder. And I even found a mention of humans being used as fodder in Daniel, the book of Daniel, which there's one set of 4 verses there, which I've translated in Hebrew, word by word for people to show them that it treats humans as fodder, things like fragile clay to be crushed and consumed. So, yeah, that group certainly see us as beneath them in the food chain, whereas I think there's a group superior to them that they came from, where we have, the God, the head of that group, which is a parallel universe, I believe, and they do not want to harvest us as food, but they do want to offer humans the ability to come to their universe, the parallel universe, and to have a body that doesn't decay. So that's the two opposing views, and certainly there's evidence that the bad guys, if you wish, the Lucifer guys, they treat us as fodder. That's scary when you think about it. But anyway, now the Earth changes. You mentioned volcanoes and weather and stuff, and certainly Blind Freddy can see that we're having problems with our seas and the food harvest that we're doing and how it's weakening, and radiation pollution from various things like Fukushima. But the fear over Yellowstone's eruption I don't think that we have to worry too much about that. And I know you thought, well, that the government, aren't going to tell you everything, and that's true. And I do know behind the scenes that the supercomputer in Utah, the National Security Agency supercomputer, has been hooked into quite a few sensors, seismometers in the Yellowstone area, and the number of them, the location of them is classified, and the purpose for them is classified. I got this from one of the geologists who had to sign, or his wife had to sign the paper for security secrecy on this Yellowstone observation. And when they said, the powers that be over there in USGS, when they said that these swarms occur periodically, that is correct. I went back 17 years. In fact, you can see image 46 on my show images page. I don't know whether your listeners can get to that, but go to our main website, standeyo.com, and over underneath the microphone on that page, you'll see a thing that says show images. And if you click there, it'll take you over to a page with a bunch of boxes, each numbered. And if you look at box number 46, that is earthquakes in the Yellowstone caldera region since 2000, since June 12th of 2000, up to June the 11th, just the other day. And you'll see a cluster or a swarm of quakes down on the lower left-hand side. You'll see one over the lake on the right side. You'll see one in between those two, and you'll see the swarms have occurred. Now, what you're not seeing is what's in image, oh goodness, where is it here? Image 47. Now, 47 is a swarm of earthquakes that everybody's concerned about. It's not kind of looking into the details of this. For a swarm to be a worry, to me, in my research, it has to be close to where a dome is rising, where the ground is pulsing up and down, and there's a hot magma pool under it, so that it can erupt. So if you look at the next image, 48, that shows you I've added in this last 2 weeks' worth of swarm over on the top left, and so that you see all of these earthquakes from 2006 June. So you say, okay, well, big deal. Look underneath. Let's look at image 43, Yellowstone magma chambers. Now you'll see there, from a cutaway view, the caldera is over the known magma chamber. And I emphasize known magma chamber. In the top right, you see Sour Creek Dome, which we know is rising so many millimeters a year. The satellites are calculating it. And they recently discovered another magma chamber underneath the one under Yellowstone, but it extends to the left a bit, underneath that, toward the southwest in this particular cut. Now, if you go back to that page and look at image 45, this one is the one that I think we have to kind of accept as possible, maybe not probable, but possible eruption. Now, this shows the history of Yellowstone caldera from, when it was 2.1 million years old, and the eruptions of the caldera up to, last time, but so many million years ago. I don't even think that timing's correct, but anyway. Look at these light purple ones. That was the caldera in the beginning, and then a darker purple, and then more of a magenta as it moved up to the Sour Creek Dome where we are now. But the second caldera eruption, 1.3 million years ago, was on the edge of this caldera, which was larger at the time. So, although the Sour Creek Dome, the dark magenta there, is the one that everybody's watching, that's, scientists seeing it rise up, the swarm of quakes that we were talking about is over to the left, the Gibbon Falls area, which is on the very outside edge of the caldera that's producing the Sour Creek Resurgent Dome. Now, it is possible, but I don't think it's probable, that there is activity in a magma pocket underneath the Gibbon Falls area. There just isn't a lot of evidence showing any thermal or bulging evidence. So I'm telling people at the moment, don't get panicky about Yellowstone. It's later. And I don't know how much later or if ever, but it's certainly it could cause a lot of damage if it went off again. But there are other ones to worry about, in North Island, New Zealand, the Taupo caldera, and there's one in Italy they just discovered as well. So there are threats from all these, but it's not the end. It's just a progress in the climate changes we're seeing.
They did a movie, it wasn't really a documentary, a movie on YouTube, got to do with what if Yellowstone did go off. And if people go off to YouTube and search, they'll actually find it. You can watch it, and you just like a dramatization of the Yellowstone going off. Now, the one thing you said there about we had a near miss regarding meteors or asteroids, and a couple of people I've listened to when they talk about this on the internet, they feel that the USGS play them down and actually don't log all them, because we are due to be hit. The amount of debris that's out there and the amount of asteroids that have come near the Earth is quite frightening, more than, I don't think people realise how close they do get and how many there are. Do you trust the USGS when they're reporting on this?
Not entirely, because I know that, having talked to some of them, that they have been told officially from the administrations past in the White House not to panic the public, to always give any suspect reports to the administration first and let them see whether they need to avoid panic. And knowing people, as you and I both do, there will be a stampede if, say, in Florida, they say there's a hurricane coming. Well, people say, well, I'm going to get my food, I'm going to get my petrol, we're going to go. And they rush and strip the shelves bare for 2 days when they could have been preparing all along, put stuff aside for storms and things. But no, they panic. And, this is a reaction of people who aren't thoroughly educated in how to deal with something like that. The USGS, is under kind of a muzzle. I know that they have to sign non-disclosure agreements on various things. And there are, as you say, there are a lot. There are thousands of asteroids that are potentially going to be an Earth striker. And they form a kind of a ring around us that way out there. Last time I checked with the space group over here in Colorado Springs, I think they said we had about 5,000 that they categorized, cataloged, but that there was a lot more out there, these Earth-damaging asteroids that they haven't seen yet. And the reason is because not all asteroid chunks reflect enough light, if any at all, for us to pick them up on an optical telescope. You have to look at them with infrared to try to pick them up if they've got any kind of heat at all above absolute zero, or, Kelvin anyway. So, these things, one of them is probably going to be perturbed somehow or another and be that burning star, because it'll glow brightly when it comes into the Earth's atmosphere. And it may be visible before it even hits the atmosphere as a star moving toward us for some reason, illuminated by the sun. I wish we had a better answer scientifically to how to shift these things out of our way. But failing, like a shield over the Earth's ionosphere with high frequency, high current fields set up there by HAARP-type stations. Barring that, I don't know how we could make a shield for the Earth that would cause the thing to overheat and fragment, and, little pieces, a lot of little pieces hit the Earth rather than one big one in one impact zone. It would spread the damage across the planet in the path of the incoming thing. But like what happened in Russia here, that one here a couple of years back that split up just as it hit the ionosphere. If it hadn't, the result would have been like a nuclear bomb over that city that, as it was, did suffer a lot of damage. Don't be worried. Just, if something like that gets you, you're gone anyway, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, totally. If it depends where it hits, it's quite interesting. It's funny when you hear the story of people talking about certain things, and then there's other people that you go on YouTube and you're looking around and you're listening, and they have a different spin on a situation, which is quite interesting, because I heard one person talk on YouTube saying that Trump and Putin are getting together and they have a missile defense, and they've been testing it because there's been a few asteroids getting too close for comfort, and they tested it out there the other day apparently, and they were successful. Now, you have to ask the question about advanced tech. I mean, you being an ex-FBI person, you'll probably vouch that they're probably 50, 60, 100 years ahead, and probably even more of the technology that we have today. So they probably have advanced tech. And the whole idea of keeping weapons out of space, well, to be honest with you, it wouldn't surprise me if they had them up there already.
No, me neither. And of course, if you made it public, instead of keeping it secret, you'd have an uproar, in the democratic countries saying, I think that's too dangerous. You can't do that. We want to stop funding and that kind of rubbish. But there is a need for that, a clear and present danger. And we have thousands of these things in a kind of a cloudy orbit around the Earth, stretched out, millions of miles in radius. But still, any of these could be disturbed by some gravitational fluctuation, well, like a Planet X, and cause one or more of these stars to, these bright lights, the asteroids, to come and strike the Earth, as prophecy says. I don't see anywhere in the Bible until the end of the book of Revelation, after 1,000 years of peace here on the planet, I don't see anywhere except there that the Earth will be destroyed. And it does clearly state that the Earth and the heavens that we see will be destroyed in a fiery heat, but will be replaced by a new Earth and a new heavens, probably in the parallel universe where the creator of this universe dwells. But who knows?
That's interesting. That's something that I want to talk to you about, because if you listen to the people like Dolores Cannon, she's passed away now, but she did regressional hypnotherapy on people, and she talked about this new earth and the divide. And we've heard this time and time again about what's changing in the world at the moment. The energy vibrations that are hitting the planet from the center of the galaxy, people who are vibrating on the right energy will be able to deal with it, although it's still difficult, but they're dealing with it. But the people who are not vibrating, or they can't deal with the energy, you're seeing this level of madness on the planet. Just people doing nutty things, and there's no kind of explanation. You think, wow, why did that happen, or why did that person do it? And we've been told that it's down to the human frequency's gone up on the planet, and our energies have gone up, because there is a kind of higher power, if you want to put it to that, saying that our role in life is to be service to others. And if you're over 50% of that way, if you're that way inclined, then you're on the right energy path. But if you're underneath that, if you're selfish, you're greedy, murderers and psychopaths and all that, well, they're the people who aren't dealing with the energy, and that's what's happening. What's your take on that?
Well, decades ago, I debated with a member of the Findhorn Society. He was a member of like several groups that are members of the Great White Brotherhood. And they speak about vibrations in people, and the new age coming, and people not being of the right vibes. And I debated him across an audience we had there about what the Bible says of this time versus what the esoteric groups say about this time. Both he and I say there will be a portion of the population of the planet that will be taken off the planet away. He says it will be because those are of the lower vibrations, that they can't deal with the new order coming, and they'll be sent to lives on other planets and, be repolished to come back into society later. The Bible says that those disappearances are those who follow the Messiah, Jesus, in the rapture. But we both allow for removal of a portion of the population just before the New World Order forms, or as it's forming.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Well, these numbers, there's 4 people that we've interviewed, and they are different people from different backgrounds, but they all agree that the percentage is between 8% and 12% on the planet. Now, you can call them organic or synthetic or the viables. There's all different names. They call them all different names. But basically, they're the 10 or 12%, well, between 8 and 12% of people who are vibrating with the energy. I mean, if you're talking about 7 billion people on the planet, you're only talking between about 600 million people out of 7 billion who are vibrating on the right energy. So now I'm not religious in any way, and I've heard about the rapture too, but whether it's a dimensional shift, I mean, are we going to go anywhere, or is it just going to be a dimensional shift, and all of a sudden we're going to see things differently? Now, one of the things I said a long, long time ago, and I'll kind of say it again, and I'll get your take on this, Stan. Have you ever driven down a road, Stan, and you're looking down the road while you're driving, but you see the road in a different way? What about you, Steve? Has that ever happened to you?
Only when I'm driving drunk.
Yeah, well, that's it. No. No, you haven't. That's never. You never looked down the road.
When you say, how do you mean seeing it in a different way now?
I don't know, if you want to call it a glitch in the matrix, maybe, but basically, you go down the road, the same road that you've driven down before, but it's like you haven't driven down that road before. It's just something different with it. You
mean like, okay, you've driven down 100 times, and now your 101st time, you feel like you've never been on the road?
No, you've been on the road. It's very hard to explain it. It's just like you're viewing it differently. It's on a different energy vibration. Now, I'll tell you, I was watching a TV program ages ago about a couple who used to go walking in a field in a local area, and they said they experienced this kind of dimensional shift where they actually went back in time in the same location, but everything felt different, even though it's the same place.
Kind of Field of Dreams type of thing.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Okay.
So, now, because we talk about the holographic Earth and whether that sun is our sun or whether that's a fake sun and whether we're all in a Truman Show, have you looked into that at all, Stan?
Well, it's what I was saying. We're told in the religious teachings, of the Jews and the Christians that this is not reality. What we see here is not reality. It is like a virtual reality, and humans weren't really ready to understand that concept 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, until we got to the technology we've got now where we can create our own electronic virtual realities. Then we can understand that the Earth, the whole universe, in fact, could be a created reality for the purpose of sorting out the kind of beings the Creator wants versus the ones He doesn't want. That would be in line with what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, we still don't know who did the Georgia Guidestones, and but that could be a New World Order thing with the 500 million on the planet, which they want to reduce the planetary population, and we're seeing an awful lot of that as well. Wars and the vaccinations and everything else. So, but then again, that's man-made control.
Well, I don't know that we can actually go back in time. I do think that travel in time can be forward. You can leapfrog forward many, many years, but you can't come back once you've done it. And I think that there were a lot of beings on the planet back around the time of the Roman conquest of Jerusalem, or destruction of it in 70 AD. There were a lot of beings back there that were, in my opinion, bad vibes, the satanic beings that were here looking like they were humans. Mm. And I think that they could step into their craft, set up a electrical or electrogravitic field, which alters the rate of time passage inside the field, either faster or slower. And they could definitely set the energy level inside their crafts so that they could jump forward to, say, Da Vinci's time, or jump forward to the Crusades, or, and then suddenly pop out of the heavens here, out of mountains where they've been storing their craft, and be not much older than they were when the crucifixion occurred. So those beings can travel in time, and as I say, forward. It does not allow them to see all of time and control it. Like the Creator must have control of all time, because the Creator can say in, well, I don't know, say 3000 AD, the Earth is going to be melted down with the rest of the heavens that you see, and a new one will replace it. Now, for him to say that Creator, to prophets 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, means that he can have his consciousness in the past and the future and anywhere in between. But those beings who are here now, which were part of a war in the parallel universe, the real universe, if you wish, they were kicked here just like the bad guys of General Zod in the Superman saga. You know, they were kicked just like that, and we've got to deal with them. And you know, that Superman logo, that Superman concept is really talking about a Messiah, single Messiah, like we talk about in the Bible, coming to save mankind from the fallen ones, with super technology coming down to destroy mankind. It's just such an incredible parallel that the guy, whoever it was that created Superman stuff, was really on track.
And do you have a belief that that's going to happen yourself?
Absolutely. In fact, look, I covered this, I added an appendix in 2010, the last edition of the Cosmic Conspiracy book, where I detail what is about to happen, the great deception for those that were cast down here, you know, cast out of their universe to ours. And they used humans. The agreements we made after Roswell with these beings was that we would build them underground facilities to, you know, make what they needed for their own weapons and stuff like that, in a war that they're having with the Creator. But they didn't tell us that exactly. They just said, we need to have your help to build technology, and in return, we'll give you anti-gravity, we'll give you new medicine, we'll give you molecular physics, all that kind of stuff. And in the late 70s, and that was a group that I was working for under Dr. Teller, the human portion of these bases was kicked out step by step from all the facilities that we'd given to them, so that they could make the technology they wanted. And when they got to a point where they were self-sustaining, they didn't need our help, and they started killing us, you know, and we started killing back. But anyway, we lost. And these underground facilities are now probably a lot larger and perhaps more numerous. And I think as things progress this year and next year, and the world comes into some real crisis curves, that people are going to be wanting help from some group, some person or a group that can show they don't have any track record politically or religiously with any country or religion, okay?
Yeah.
And that's when I think the fallen ones will make themselves known and will back some guy to be the leader of the New World Government, but not before a lot of countries and a lot of people get hurt. I think the United States is going to get hurt really bad, really bad.
And people are going to cry out for it, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
But here's an interesting thing, though, Alan. We talk about the Illuminati and the world government people and that kind of stuff, and they are allied, many of them, with the fallen one leader, the Lucifer of that group, if you wish. And they are selling us, you know, like traitors. They are selling us to this new occupying force. What happens is like what happened in the Russian Revolution, though. The people that joined with the communists and betrayed their own people there in Russia, as soon as the revolution government took control of Russia, they lined all these traitors up and shot them because they couldn't be trusted. And this is what I think is going to happen to the Illuminists who are, you know, thinking their stuff doesn't stink, and they've joined with the invaders coming, the bad guy, that they are going to be killed or tortured or maybe even eaten, I don't know, by the new rival, because they couldn't trust him either. You know, Satan couldn't trust the humans that turned on their own kind. So I think we'll cheer about that. If we're here, we'll say, look at that. You know, the bad dudes got their comeuppance, you know, and not realizing that who is the head of the food chain over them is now coming after us. Exactly,
and that's what it sounds like. Now, we do have questions, but there's a couple of things I just want to talk to you about. We've heard about a fallen angel in Afghanistan. I'm talking about a spiritual being tied up and being kept there against their will. And also the joints over there in Kurdistan, I think they have, they're supposed to be 10 feet, probably even taller with red hair. Have you heard about this at all?
I've heard rumors of it. I know Steve Quayle follows a lot of that and pulls the reports together, and I've read them. And he does talk about the red-headed giants, that some of that are allegedly is still kind of in hibernation in various caves and some pyramid structures. But other than that, I can only be like yourself. I can say, well, that's interesting. Okay, if they are here, then it's fulfilling a biblical prophecy that says the end days of this age, not the planet, but the end days of this age, will be attended by events like just before the flood of Noah. And in that time, they had giants, they had hybrid beings, they had human-animal mixtures. Even, the little g gods of Egypt show half human, half jackal type structures and other things. The Indian subcontinent Indian structure, they have snake heads on a woman, Medusa type figures, and so that kind of stuff, genetic crossbreeding, is occurring in our labs right now. There's no question about that. That's been made public. Trying to see if they can revive extinct species and stuff. That's at least what they're saying publicly. But with that kind of technology and with gene splicing, we could see, just like in the days of Noah, hybrid beings that are really chimeras, and they're, you shouldn't have them. They don't fit into our ecostructure at all.
Of course. Well, it's Jurassic Park, basically. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, Jurassic Park with intelligence. So we're seeing that now. If they're seeing these giants over in Afghanistan, if they're there, okay, it's probably either our manipulating the gene pool or the fallen ones from the parallel universe doing it themselves, or these might have been on ice for a while and then being, revived now to frighten the people of Earth again.
Have you heard about this fallen angel that's locked up in underground caves in Afghanistan? The rumors are that there is one.
I haven't. I would find that interesting. When you say the spiritual being, I think that people kind of think, well, spiritual, that means kind of wavy lines and, gaseous appearance. But these guys that have come across from the parallel universe as beings from what we would call the spirit world, they are solid. They can reproduce with human women. They can, they can tear your arm off and chew it up. I mean, they might be from the spiritual side of things, but they're now solid.
Yeah.
And I don't know much more about that. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. As I say, we're just throwing out there. We've one more question for you before we go over to the questions. The Mandela Effect. What's your take on that?
Well, I've wondered if the deja vu effect was an effect that we all feel when the timeline that we're in has been altered to accommodate some event. Understand, if you're the creator of our universe, imagine it's a slide carousel that he has, and each slide is a microcosm of time and events throughout the entire universe. Now, he's outside the carousel, so the creator can take a slide that's here, replace it with another slide that gives him a more preferred event or result at the end of time, and place it in there, and that changes all events forward. But for some of us, it just simply meant that our experience of a deja vu thing was a little bit of a slight aberration when that new slide was put into the sequence of things. The Mandela Effect may be an effect of that, and it may be nothing more than just someone's imagination. I'm not sure that, or the memory failing or whatever. I'm not sure that's a real event, but it could be.
Well, everybody remembers certain things and are, convinced that that's not the way it was. And it's not just a case of movies and stuff like that, but actually, buildings, islands, lands, things that were there that aren't there, or countries that have moved that were not there years ago. So it is kind of strange. But I do want to get to questions because we have about 30 minutes left. Steve.
All right.
Yeah, we do have some questions. A lot of interest on the chat room there. Where are we start? So let's just start with Chris. Chris said earlier on, in relation to events, upcoming events in Antarctica, Stan, have you any information or insight into that, and can you tell us?
Well, Chris, it's a good question. I do see a number of unusual events, occurrences that are related to the Antarctic event, if you wish. Is it possible that there is a civilization buried under the ice there? Yes. Is it possible that world leaders from the United States, from the Vatican, from Russia, from the religious groups, astronauts, is it possible they've gone down there to see this discovery? Yes. I don't think that a Secretary of State or an Archbishop or whoever wants to go to the South Pole for a leisurely vacation trip. It's a hard trip to make, and there's no point to it unless there's something to affect us. And we know that these people went down. The Prime Minister of New Zealand, why did they go down there? And why did they come back changed people? Their attitudes are different. I think they are being introduced to these fallen ones, and they're based there. Some people have said, okay, the Antarctic event, if there is a base or a city they're uncovering with these steam hoses that they're melting down the ice in the area, if there is one there, were they part of the Atlantis group? And I would say that if you read Plato and if you read the Book of Jubilees, you will see that they both say between 12 and 200 super beings were put on the earth, and they divided the earth up between them. And when we talk about Atlantis, we think there was only one spot where these 12 to 200 beings landed and built culture. That's not the case. The only reason that Atlantis is used as an example of, the super beings is it's the only one we've got documentation on that's reliable. It came from the Egyptian records and from the Greek, Solon, who went over to Egypt and got the data off of Astila. It comes from that. But there were evidences of a parallel type development in Central America, in South America, in Peru, in China, possibly the South Pole. So if they find advanced civilizations there at the South Pole, I think it will just be part of the group that was put on Earth at that time. Realistically, as a punishment, they were cast here. And some of them were destroyed when the Great Flood occurred and the ice deposited at the South Pole. So, in essence, I would say, yes, the discovery down there would be part of the Atlantean type culture, which inhabited the Earth before the Great Flood, before the asteroids hit to cause the flood. That's basically how I see that.
And would you say, if there was another civilization discovered down there, and people have gone, as you say, people have gone down, they have come back changed, do you reckon this civilization would be alive, or do you reckon it would be like remnants of another civilization?
I think that probably most of that would be dead, bodies that were preserved under the ice, but their people, if you wish, are here. There are a lot of them that are not frozen, that have come through time to now. And they may be unfreezing them or allowing them to be unfrozen, their whole civilization there, as proof that they've been here for a long time before we were humans. So it could be. I mean, they could have gone into hibernation in some kind of technology when they saw the ice coming. I mean, it would have been sudden. Remember, they found woolly mammoths with their last meal still in their mouth. It was so quick that it quick froze them like that. So that kind of lends credence to the thought that they died down the South Pole. They were frozen to death.
What do you call the? I was wondering, would there be one of those things down there? And I've written the word gate down here, and I can't remember what only the arch thing. What are they called?
The Stargates.
Stargates. Could there be a Stargate down there?
Well, I know the Stargate series used that idea to go to Stargate Atlantis and whatever. There were methods of gating between our universes, and most of them occurred, these gateways, on tall mountains or pyramid structures. That's why Nimrod tried to build a tall structures. He wanted to build one to have a gateway to the heavens, to the parallel universe. So, it could be down there. I mean, there are high mountains down there. They might not have been too active of late. I mean, even the biblical accounts like Ezekiel, when he sees a flaming chariot come out of the skies and down to us, it's like a portal, an artificial portal for that chariot. But in the Sumerian records and stuff, they talk about the beings coming in at the top of a tall mountain or pyramid, and the 200 angels or 12 angels, whatever you call from Plato's account of Atlantis, they came to a mountain peak over in Syria, a high peak. So the highness of it apparently has some relationship to how you open up the high voltage gate between our universes. And I often wonder if CERN is not playing with that.
Yeah, well, we've heard reports as well about CERN from, depending on who you speak with. Some people have told us that CERN will never work, that there are other forces at work that are kind of, every time CERN goes to fire up the thing, that there are forces that are making sure that nothing bad will ever happen, and they're just going to be wasting their time now.
That was shut down in August 2015.
Yeah. Allegedly, yeah.
Yeah, allegedly, yeah.
Is that something you can talk about, or?
Don't know. I don't have any sources inside there, so I can only kind of guesstimate with the energy levels they're playing with. They might be trying to open up a gate. Actually, there's a stela that the Germans had, Nazis had, and tried to burn it, when they were burning the artworks they'd captured. And this stela is from the time of Marduk the Great, I think around 1500 BC. And in there is a floor plan for a ziggurat and a place on the top floor for the gods to appear and have refreshments for an hour or so, and then go down to the next level of the ziggurat and have some more refreshments and wait for an hour or a few, whatever, until the energy density of their bodies matched ours, our universe. Otherwise, if they were to come straight down to the ground and then touch a human, it would destroy the human with like an electric flash almost. It would just vaporize them. Remember when Jesus was just risen from the dead in the scriptures where he's in the garden and Mary Magdalene comes as, oh, Master, she reach out to touch him. He says, don't touch me because I haven't ascended yet. So it would have hurt her, I think. And so that kind of tells you that they probably need a high place. I mean, when Jesus ascended, he went to a high place and rose up in the air from the high place into the kingdom, the parallel universe. A lot of the stuff that people treat as myth and, legend and stuff in the Bible, and some of the books that aren't in the Bible but are written in a period, a lot of that stuff is based on fact. I mean, how else could I find the Garden of Eden by following those fact clues, or find the asteroid impact and find Atlantis there in Saudi Arabia without following those clues? They're real.
Well, it's funny you should talk about the religious side. Steve, you have a question there for...
Okay. Chris just said earlier, he said a point. Stan is quoting the Bible quite a bit. It can be argued that the religions with books are the cause of all the trouble and genocide in the world, and are not written for humanity's salvation, but were written to enslave us in a cycle of hate. What would you say to Chris?
Well, Chris, I'm sorry you see it that way, but it's like saying that history is the cause of the problems we have today. And certainly history itself is not, but people misusing resources and being greedy and wanting to control, larger and larger numbers of people, they are the problem. The fact that the ancient Hebrew and the more modern Greek in the biblical books, they tell us what happened, what would happen in the past and already has happened, and what will happen. And in spite of all that, it does say that there will be religious conflict, and Christians will be beheaded, and Jews in the last days of this age. But did that cause it? Is it a religion of hate? Certainly, Islam is. I've read enough of the Quran myself to know that if you're Jewish or Christian, you're dead meat in their sight. They're going to cut your head off or tax you to death if they take over. And I think that there will be an Islamic-type world government which will behead people who don't follow the New World Order.
That's if they get their way.
Well, I think the Antichrist that people talk about in that period of 7 years where he will have a rule of the planet, well, a part of it, because then he'll die or be wounded, and the second beast of the Revelation will take over and point everybody to the first ruler of the world as a great example and do a lot of things in his name that people think that the Antichrist does, but it's really this new guy, probably in Europe somewhere. But I tell you, if you'll watch what's happening over in Saudi Arabia, the Saud family who run Saudi Arabia, they follow Wahhabism, which is an extreme form of Islam, and they are definitely against the type of Islam practiced in Iran. The Saudis want to destroy that practice and Iran as mortal enemies. So we're seeing that there's going to be concentration of war effort there in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia is going to be right at the center of it. And you have the Salman family, who is part of the Saud. King Salman has now appointed his own son, Prince Mohammed bin Salman, to be the ruler when either the king steps down or dies. Even Nostradamus, and we're not talking about religious prophet, Nostradamus said that there will be an Antichrist, and his name will be initials, MBS, and he puts the vowels MABUS, Mabus. If you read the news, a number of times it's called Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, in the press, in the Middle East. Now, he's formed already a union of 34 Arab countries, and those 34 countries are an Arabic Union, AU, MABUS, Mabus. Now, he has come to power. He shouldn't even be the crown prince, but things have turned it over. He's making deals with Jared Kushner and with Israel and with Trump, obviously, to go against ISIS and Iran and, possibly even against Russia as time permits. But what we're seeing here tells us that we are looking at a religious conflict, all right, but that the Christians and Jews, for the short period of time, will not come out on top of that until the end of the 7-year tribulation, when the Messiah, the rightful king of the planet, comes back and deposes all these bad guys. That's coming soon.
Are we in the 7 years at the moment? Has it started yet?
Don't think so. As far as all of us who study these signposts, clues to when that will start, we see a very strong possibility that it will start late in September this year. And for that to happen, there's going to have to be warfare in the Middle East and an attempted attack on Israel by a Saudi army and some other affiliates. At this point, the reason the United States is getting help from Saudi Arabia, from the young Prince Salman, in fighting ISIS, is the U.S. government said, look, to this young prince, we will guarantee you and help you take power before your father dies. You can be the king of Saudi Arabia, but you have to do everything we tell you to do in the Middle East without question. Now, if you study this young Mohammed bin Salman, you'll see that he's a loose cannon. And although he's agreed to that in the press in the last couple of days, he can't be trusted. He's just loose. He's going to make problems for everybody. And he's already, his country does behead people that are not of the brand of Islam that they want there in Saudi Arabia, the ruling family. They're beheading them. And clerics from the Iranian side of it, they're being beheaded there in Saudi Arabia. So he's not shy about chopping off heads if they don't agree. Watch this guy. His name is Salman, S-A-L-M-A-N, Salman. In even the Jewish Old Testament there, it talks about Shalmaneser the Great. Shalman is the S and the S-H are the same symbol in the ancient world. So Shalman, Esser. So it's the great Salman who formed Asher up on the Tigris River and formed the Assyrian dynasty. Even, people talk about King Solomon of Israel. His name in Hebrew in Israel is Melech Shlomo. There's nothing about Solomon there. We have allowed the legends of the Arabic King Solomon to merge with the Jewish history of their King Solomon or Shlomo, and people are confused, so they just call him King Solomon. But the Solomon we're watching, it will be in Revelation 13, it talks about, here's a secret, the Antichrist of this age his number will be the number of a man, 666. And in the Bible, the only place that you have 666 is back in the time of King Solomon, who earned or gathered 666 talents, thousands of pounds of gold every year as income, 666. He was thought to be the wisest man of the past, a rich man, powerful man. So now we come to the new Antichrist of this age, who is a Solomon again. It's a warning saying, watch for the Solomon of your age, who is wealthy.
Can I just jump in there? Prophecy, my understanding of prophecy is something that will happen if we don't change. If we don't change what's going on, then prophecy will happen. So although this is prophesied to happen, it doesn't mean we can't change it.
Prophecy is one thing. Warning is another. Warning visions tell a city, if you don't change your ways, God's going to destroy you. They change their ways, they don't get destroyed. But prophecy is set in stone at this point. This will happen. There's no way out of it. We're going to see that 7-year period of conflict. And even if you just disregard the Bible, disregard the Quran, look at the threats to civilization now facing us. Weather, climate, food, asteroid impacts, nuclear war. You know, you don't need all these prophecies to understand that we're in a very crucial point where we may lose the entire human population. Yeah.
Well, I can definitely vouch for that. There's definitely a lot going on. We are at that point where, well, we'll just have to see what happens in the next 2 years. Steve, you have another question there for Stan.
Yeah, we do. We have a comment that was posted earlier on People's Internet Radio Chat. One of the listeners over there says, everything is in the future. Never will happen. Typical carrot on a stick, non-progression, fear porn, keeping you waiting for nothing. What do you think of that one, Stan?
Well, I assume he's talking about biblical prophecy. Is that what the way you read it?
Yeah.
Well, things have happened. Countries have fallen. The Jerusalem temple has been torn to the ground by the Romans. There are a number of issues that were prophesied that have already happened. But it's not a carrot that's you're never going to reach. We are approaching a time, as I just said to you, Steve, where blind Freddy can see that we're in a world that's about to see an impact from a large meteor or asteroid. We're in a world where volcanoes are erupting and earthquakes are happening in greater numbers in diverse places, just like it said in Matthew 24. These things that were prophesied are now starting to happen. In fact, Holly wrote a book here this last year called Prophetic Perils, the end time events revealed in the, like in the newspapers and stuff. And it's hundreds of pages showing you what was prophesied, what has already happened, and what is happening as we speak, and what will happen, as far as you can tell, interpreting future prophecies. So I'm sorry I have to disagree with that guy in the chat room there, because these things are happening. The prophesied events are happening.
So this 8 to 12% that we talked about earlier, that could be classed as the synthetics or the organics, I should say, not the synthetics, and the Bibles, and they will be moved or taken off to another planet or another dimensional planet. How do you think that would happen if it was to happen?
Well, I think that as best I can translate, what will happen is that these people that are going to be removed are going to be good people. They're Christian people, and what will happen is their spirit will leave their body rapidly and leave the body behind. So they will appear to die, and the excuse given by whoever runs the world at that point in time will say they were taken away to have retraining and get their vibes right and bring them back later. That's what I was talking about in that debate at the Theosophical Society. So yeah, I mean, I think that we will see that, and that the dead bodies will be explained away either that way or as a result of some genetic virus that hit the planet and killed them all on the same day at the same time. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. But anyway, yes, both the Theosophical and the Christian Jewish prophecies do address the removal of a large number of people from the planet. And because it says that we're in a virtual reality, our avatars are solid bodies, but us, our spirit, our consciousness, is taken and given form in a parallel universe. That's how to explain it in modern technology.
Okay, because that's interesting. Again, we'll put you down on the list as number 5 who talks about this, because it's interesting that we've talked about this before on the show. Now, as you say, the body will just drop and you'll be lifted up. We've had people on the show like Chris Thomas and Stephanie Ralph who will say that if that ever comes, there ever comes a time when that happens, you should, if anybody happens to come down and they need your consent for you to come on their ship or anything like that, the last thing you will do is to get on, because if it's of a spiritual nature and it's the Creator, they don't need physical crafts to do it.
That's correct. Again, I draw the same analogy. Our existence is like a virtual reality, like in the movie Avatar, where those green or blue-green beings were, recreated, or some of them, by the humans. They made husks or shells of those indigenous people, and the occupants of those shells got into a little cubicle, and their consciousness was then transferred to the avatar. It looked like the people of that planet. And this is what we're seeing is, if you were those blue people and you had an avatar of a human with you and didn't know it, and that avatar falls down dead, and then gets back up later, it's because the avatar has been awakened again by the controllers out there in, the computer room. That's the same thing we see here. You're not going to be asked. You are looking up for that moment. That's what the scriptures say. Look up, because the guy that's going to deliver you is coming soon. He's near. And it will be in the blink of an eye, twinkling of an eye. All these people will suddenly drop their avatar bodies down and be back into the real world with the Messiah and his universe.
Okay, so we've a few minutes left. What's the positive word of advice to our listeners? What would you say to them?
Well, it's a time to reassess your position in the universe and the food chain and whatever. You may not find that the way you've been told about ancient history and Bible in a history school, you may not find that that's, entirely pleasing or even of interest or maybe of truth. But I encourage people to reassess their position. If you believe in a creator of any kind, reassess and study to see how you will fare when you die. I mean, I've like many other people, have come to death and left the body and saw a portion of what's out there in the parallel universe, or the gateway to it anyway. So I know, as do the others, that we live with a body and a mind much better than what we've got now. Your consciousness, your IQ, if you wish, just absolutely zooms once you leave the body. So it's important for people to address that, because you don't just die and turn to dust. You die and your consciousness goes somewhere. In the Philippines and in Thailand in the old days, I had a friend over there who was a doctor, and he and his partner watched a man die, an old man. They paid his family to let him die under their care in a glass cage that they had. They were weighing it. They wanted to weigh the soul and see how much it weighed when the guy died. And as he breathed his last breath and his eyelids, were still, suddenly a ball of bright light popped out of his chest and darted around inside this glass cage until it found a way to break it, and the glass shattered. The light was gone. The man was dead. They closed up everything in the experiment and never talked about it again. Now, I met another lady from the Philippines here recently that she watched her sister die, and she saw a wispy, kind of ball-shaped cloud come out of her mouth as she passed. That must be the representation in our world of the spirit and the soul. So people should really stop worrying about baseball games and a lot of other things that are kind of fun pursuits, but we're approaching a time where you may die quicker than you thought you were going to, and you need to address what happens to you after that.
I totally agree. Just a quick yes or no to this one, because we're just there with time. Do you believe in karma?
Yeah, to a degree, because the Bible says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And if you're hurting somebody or some group, then expect it to reflect back on you. You attract that.
Yeah, okay, well, that's cool. All right, Sam, well, listen, we've reached that time. Thanks a lot for coming on. That's been a fantastic information and a great chat. Totally enjoyed that. And it's good that we can bounce around and talk about different things and just throw it out there. But again, thanks for coming on. I'm going to pass you out to Steve. Steve's going to get all your details where people can track you down and find your website and stuff like that. Steve.
Track him down. We do have a link here, Stan, to your website, and it's quite easy to remember, StanDeyo.com, and there's a lot of information on the site and links to the YouTube channel also, plethora of information. Any other links that you want to mention or you want to try out there before you leave us this evening?
Well, just go to the StanDeyo.com site. I think that all of the important information that you need to be considering in this time will be there if it's not there already. We have 6 gigabytes of data in there and a lot of free information for people to go to know how to prepare themselves for various disasters that may strike the planet. But the books, or the printed versions of it are much more detailed and reliable in an EMP. So, go there, and I think there are links off of that to a lot of things that you'll find interesting.
That's going to be our part 3. We want to get into CMEs and EMPs and talk about them, and maybe, as you say on your website, which is a great name, daretoprepare.com. Very, very good. But Stan, thanks a lot for coming on. Just stay with us there for a minute. We're just going to pop off to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com, and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
Bad to the bone. Yes, allegedly that was Alan's choice. I don't know why. He's sending out a subliminal message. He's bad to the bone, ladies. Anyway.
I'd just like the start of that song. It's from Terminator, the movie.
Right. Who sings it, though?
I don't know.
Answers on the postcard. Anyway, great information there from Stan Deyo. StanDeyo.com is the website. Do check it out. Lots of information. As he said, 6 gigabytes of data. Something there for everybody.
Brilliant stuff. Right, our next guest is a chap that's going to be at the Basis Conference in September, and more than likely we'll probably bump into him because we're going to be doing the talk there as well. And his name is Dr. Eamonn Ansbro. Good evening, Eamonn. How are you doing?
Good evening, Alan.
Now, Eamonn, you're going to be at the Basis Conference, and you're going to be doing a talk there, and I don't know what day you're going to be on. We're going to be down there on the Saturday. But you want to, just for people who don't know you, give us a bit of a background of what you do, and then we'll talk about what you're going to be talking about at the conference.
Okay. Well, I'm an astronomer, so my background is all scientific. And I'm involved in SETI, that's the Search for Extra-terrestrial Intelligence.
Brilliant, okay. And you're officially involved with SETI, yeah?
Yes, officially involved.
Okay, well, you should have been on there on the show with their last guest, because we start talking about all this planetary information regarding Planet X and Planet 9 and all these planetary bodies which they're finding all of a sudden. What's your take on all of that?
Well, there's probably at least 2 other planets in the outer part of the solar system. There's 2 teams of astronomers that are working on certainly a much closer planet, and mind you, this is still hypothetical at this point in time, at about 1,000 AU. And then there's another group that's looking for a brown dwarf, which would be a failed star, so to speak, but it'd be very, very large. And that would be in the, say, about 90,000 AU. One AU, by the way, is 93 million miles. That's the mean distance from the Earth to the Sun.
Okay, so what are people seeing in the sky at the moment? Because we've just been speaking to our last guest about this, and there's loads of talk. People are saying Planet X, Nibiru, doesn't exist. It's all a psyop. But people are seeing physical bodies in the sky. They're taking photographs and taking videos. So what are they seeing?
Okay, well, if they are literally seeing a planet, which I'd be rather surprised about, because there are some hundreds of how shall I put it, telescopes that to operate looking out for asteroids, new planets, etc. And I haven't heard anything at all regarding, a potential Planet X or Nemesis. However, even if there was a planet of that nature and be fairly large, it would have destabilized our own solar system by now. I think what probably people are seeing may be other anomalies in the sky that looks like a planet.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, have you not seen this on YouTube, or have you Googled it at all to see the evidence? And obviously, you could view and have a look at it yourself. Have you not looked at that? No.
Yeah, I have actually, and how shall I put it? It's probably some other atmospheric phenomena. For example, if you take cirrostratus, which is a very high cloud at about 30,000 feet, you have ice crystals. These would be made up of a tetrahedron type of shape. And when you refract the light through it from the sun, you get these balls of light, which appear at about 23 degrees or 46 moon breadths from the sun. Apparently, I think it was only about 2 weeks ago, some people had filmed this kind of body out in Israel, and I only saw it there, as I said, about 2 weeks ago. And in fact, I submitted quite a technical, detailed analysis of it, what they had seen. They had photographs of it, they even had film footage, and that's exactly what I've just explained about the cirrostratus.
Okay, that's interesting, because obviously the skies that we are seeing these days are not the skies that we had years ago. I'm sure you've heard the people talking about chemtrails and stuff like that. What's your take on them?
Yeah, it's a real a policy of geoengineering that's going on. It's been going on for some years now. And yeah, it's to do with climate change, trying to reduce the amount of heat, I think, within our own atmosphere. That's as much as I know about it. But it is a real situation. It has been proven. Okay,
because there's still a lot of people out there who just don't believe that geoengineering is actual business. And they've been doing it probably from the 60s, probably earlier. And there's loads of information, as you say, there's evidence out there. You're doing the BASIS conference in September. What is you're going to be a topic of conversation? Ideally, how involved will it be, and what's it going to cover?
Okay, my main focus is the communications with extraterrestrial civilizations. That's the topic, the subject matter. And I'll be going into the breakthrough technology that we've achieved there in the last 2 years, which is, it's based on the premise that, okay, if you have ET civilizations out there and they're communicating, they may not be using the electromagnetic spectrum, in other words, using radio, microwave, etc. Probably using faster-than-light communications. And we did research there about 11 years ago into this. And we had a breakthrough there about 2 years ago of a machine that we're using presently. We actually only launched it there last year, and we're hoping that we may get the first signal.
Okay, just out of curiosity, have you ever heard of James Gilliland?
Yes, indeed.
Right. Have you know about his ranch? And
yes, I do.
Okay, and
I've actually been to it. I was at his ranch there back in 2000.
Okay, does that kind of, and I'm just being curious here, does that make SETI's work redundant for the fact that if you go over to his ranch and you look up and, you see what you see, you think, well, there's no point carrying on with this stuff here because there they are there.
Okay. What you're dealing with is transient anomalies. I mean, there could be communication taking place, all right. I suppose you have to differentiate between oranges and apples here. I mean, there may well be extraterrestrial intelligences operating on an interdimensional basis coming into our own physical density, in other words, our own space-time, that is. What we're actually interested in is actually looking for an ET civilization that would be using the same radiation of what we're using, and that would be in our space-time. In other words, we're physical beings in our space-time. So that's what James is doing actually is very different, and very similar to Stephen Greer in vectoring in these objects in the hope for communications.
So you're looking for an ET race that has a similar growth path to ourselves, because these ETs that obviously seem to be on James's ranch could be in organic crafts, and they're using telepathy, and they won't be using physical electronic equipment to do the communication. So you're looking for an ET race that's similar to us, or probably a little bit more advanced than us, that will still use this technology.
Yes, well, we're hoping actually we'll communicate with a race which is more advanced than we are, but would have faculties that have evolved even further. In our case, as human beings, unfortunately, we're dumbed down regarding faculties like telepathy and telekinesis, etc. So I'm hoping actually that we'll have an ET race that can resonate with those that are involved, that are able to communicate, how shall I put it? Not just telepathically. In our case, we are using a machine, so we'll actually want to prove that we can receive the communication, and also we'll be able to transmit as well. But that's all down to the machine. There is technology involved. But, it's like everything else in science and the academic community. We're trying to prove it through using technology. I do respect, actually, others, the way they're doing it through telepathy, which works. And, in fact, there was a paper there about 10 years back by a scientist who showed that, this could be done telepathically by putting probes on our brain, like an EEG system, and then using a specific algorithm, you could de-noise all the noise that's actually there and hopefully get a signal. So that's another way of doing it, technologically speaking.
Right, okay. And does it not seem like that it'd be like getting a phone book and just picking a phone number randomly and ringing up and hoping that you don't get some psychopath on the other end of the line? I mean, maybe I'm making it a bit too basic, but, just sending out signals willy-nilly, hoping somebody says hello, you don't know who they are or what their reasons might be to get in touch. Is that not kind of, be a bit dangerous?
Well, we're not actually sending any signals out. We're hoping for receiving a signal. And once we've received a signal, then we would select the right protocol then to send a message.
Right, so how would you know they are we come in peace, or they could be some kind of other race that would looking to conquer? Well,
I probably see it quite differently, because besides we're talking about biological and sociological things here, but it's been shown by certainly one school of thought that as a civilization grows or evolves, that it actually gets less violent. Our present situation is that we are actually becoming less violent as a society. That's been shown. There was a paper there about 2 years back, which for the last 60 years you can see a considerable decline in violence. So I'd expect actually an advanced civilization to be, for them to evolve, they'd have to be cooperative amongst themselves, cooperative maybe with other ET civilizations, and this creates stability. And so I'm optimistic that if we do get contact, that we will be dealing with a civilization that's cooperative with us.
Well, I'm going to be devil's advocate here, because an advancement in technology to me doesn't mean an advancement in the kind of thought process and their development. And the reason why I say that is because I've seen programs about indigenous tribes in the Amazon where they are a collective. They work together, they build their houses together, they go and gather food together, and everything is organised and you don't have health problems. And although they're tribal in a forest, we would be more advanced in a Western culture and society with technology and knowledge, but yet we're still going around killing each other and putting poisons in the water and everything else. So that's my kind of argument against the whole advanced thing.
Yeah, it's quite debatable. As I said, the way things are going, it's showing that there's definitely less violence occurring, and so I'd expect another civilization would be pretty stable as well.
Yeah, I'd like to think that, but I'd also be erring on the side of caution just in case, I suppose, and you'd have some kind of, I suppose you'd have to put some protocol in place just to see what you get back and see which race you're going to communicate with. So as far as you're concerned, from an academic point of view, this is kind of done and dusted, like communication with ETs, they're out there and we just have to get some contact with them in some way. Because, there are still people out there, would you believe, that still think that planet Earth is the only planet in the universe that has life.
Sure.
And so from your point of view, that's kind of, that's old school, that's, they need to kind of get out more, really.
Yeah, well, it's a matter of exploring. If people spend some time and effort in exploring the amount of research that's been done and discoveries that have been made in the last few years, it's incredible. I mean, it's really a golden age now in astronomy, in cosmology.
Okay, so, and just going back to the Planet X thing, so as far as you're concerned, because I'm under the same reasoning as yourself, that if there was a big body coming into our solar system, we would be feeling the effects of the planet now.
Oh, definitely. In fact, it would completely destabilize the whole solar system. Yeah.
And when people say about it coming in, this is what makes me think that Planet X is probably a psyop or another fear thing, because they love putting out their fear porn, as some people call it, and myself and Steve see it just as information. But for people who are in fear, they said put these stories out there and people will be fearful, and that's a lower vibrational energy. We were talking about that to our guests earlier on. But yeah, if something with a big body, 4 times the size of the Earth, I don't know how big they're saying this is, how big it is, then obviously it's going to have a massive effect. Even if they're saying, some people are saying it's doing the perihelion and it's now gone around the sun and it's on its way back with the tail of, it's a few million miles long and there's going to be debris behind that, which is the Earth is going to pass through that debris twice and we're going to get hit by asteroids from that tail. Have you heard about this?
No, I haven't heard about that because, we have Kingsland Observatory here. We have a small team of scientists, okay? And in fact, one of the main aspects of our other aspect of our research is solar system studies, and we get stuff every day coming from the International Astronomical Union, other observatories, other groups of observers, and that amateur and both professional as well. And we haven't heard anything at all of what you mentioned there by the people that you were talking to. Okay, well that's interesting. I mean, the amount of information out there. I could send you over links and stuff that if you wanted to look at and analyze. I'm not saying it's true. That's why we're called Open Your Mind Radio, just to contemplate, entertain it, but it doesn't mean you have to believe it. Because there's a lot of information out there about this, and I suppose at the end of the day, forewarned is forearmed. I mean, if nothing's going to happen, then fine. But as you say, I agree with you that if there was a body in our solar system, it'd be having an effect on the planet now. Now, there are things going on a planetary level. We're having sinkholes happen. We're having weather conditions and weather patterns which we've never had before. There's countries being flooded that have never been flooded before. I mean, what would you put that down to? I really don't know. Obviously, it's all part of the evolution of the Earth and the changes that are occurring physically or geophysically. I mean, I really haven't focused on that at all.
Okay. No.
Our main focus here is SETI.
Right, okay. And so I believe the SETI, the biggest telescope you have, a radio telescope, is in Puerto Rico. Is that right?
Well, in fact, the biggest telescope now actually was launched there last September, and that's in China. It's a 500-meter diameter radio telescope. The one in Puerto Rico that you mentioned, that's the Arecibo one. That was the largest at one time. It's at 300 meters in diameter. That's been operating since the early 60s. So so there are a number of sizable radio telescopes around the world at the moment that are working in SETI. Like 10 to 20% of their time is taken up with SETI, thanks to considerable funding that's been put into it in the last 2 years.
Yeah, because I know it's privately funded. We have a couple of questions for you there, Eamonn. Steve, if you want to pass them over there to Eamonn?
Yeah, Eamonn, a couple of questions.
Hello, Steve.
Hi. A question from Chris on the chat room there. Chris says, does Eamonn believe that we have already been contacted by non-humans?
I think it's quite possible. Certainly, there are groups around the world that claim that they have communications. There's some research that I did way back in the early 90s with another astronomer. We actually looked into that particular area, dealing with not so much the communications, but the anomalies that have been around the Earth. And we worked on a theory based on considerable amount of data going back to the 1880s to show that there appears to be some sort of controlled, autonomous type of surveillance of the Earth. As to the communications, that's quite possible as well. I mean, as I said, there are teams around the world that are able to, using consciousness, to vector in these anomalies.
Yeah.
So therefore, there must be a form of communications there.
Oh, there must be, but wouldn't it be sad to think, like, when you're looking back with our technology that we have today, and you're looking back at maybe technology that was available 50 years ago, 100 years ago, what if that the technology that we need in order to receive the signal hasn't been invented yet and is a couple of 100 years away? It would kind of be it would all be done in vain then, really, all the waiting, wouldn't it? I mean, and there's a question here from Joan. Joan is wondering, how long will you wait before you receive it, before you get a sign?
Well, actually, because we're using a breakthrough technology at the moment, we're not working in the electromagnetic spectrum. In other words, using radio and microwave.
Yeah.
We're using longitudinal waves, and these operate faster than the speed of light. And so we're pretty optimistic, based on the premise that there are civilizations out there that most likely are not using radio or microwave, and that they're using instantaneous communications. And this would be through what's called longitudinal waves. So that's what we're using at the present time. I think we're the only ones in the world actually doing this. And as I said, we only launched it there last year.
Brilliant. Well, Eamonn, we'll have to leave it there. But listen, thanks a lot for coming on. You're
most welcome.
No problem. You'll be at the Basis project, the Basis conference in September, along with ourselves, Miles Johnson, and a few others. So it sounds like you're going to have an interesting subject to talk about there in the Basis conference. If people want to look you up and just get your details, do you have a website or anything like that?
Yeah, we've got two websites. One is www.kingslandobservatory.com. That's Kingsland, Kingsland, Observatory. So that's all one word. And the other is www.SETI-Kingsland. That's SETI-KINGSLAND.org. O-R-G.
Brilliant stuff.
So, but people will get plenty of information through that.
Great stuff. All right, Eamonn, we'll let you go. Thanks a lot for coming on.
You're welcome.
Much appreciated. We'll just stay with us there for a minute. We're just going to a quick musical break. We'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com, and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
Okay, we're back. There's an apt song there, Eye in the Sky, Alan Parsons. There we go. Right.
There you go. Well,
time to wrap it all up now, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's at that time. Fantastic information from our two guests. Stan always has some fantastic information to talk about. And we were just talking there during the musical break. And funny, Stan said, you know what? It's like being in the pub having a chat and talking about things with you guys rather than an interview. And he said, it's great that we can have, we're not arguing, we're just having a debate and we're just talking about the things and nobody's trying to force somebody else their opinion down their throat. And that's what it's all about being open-minded. It's just being able to debate it and talk about it and go, oh, that's interesting, entertain the thought and not be forcing your opinion or your belief down somebody's throat. And if you can get into a group of people or a circle of people and that have a similar mindset, and we have done, myself and Steve done, and it's brilliant. It really is, because the chat just flows and everything is entertained and talked about and information is swapped and shared and links are shared, and it's great. When you get somebody stuck in a belief system, which is what we're going to be talking about at the conference, it's very hard. If they've stuck in a belief system and you won't budge from that, then they're not going to learn anything. They're just going to be stuck in it. So it's very important to, keep your mind open. Now, next week we have Cliff High is going to be coming on our show next week for part 2. Cliff is another great guy who does the WebBot program. Half Past Human is his website. And Cliff has been on before. Again, we had a great chat, great information. We've been asked to get Cliff back on. And Cliff said no problem at all, happy to do it. So he's coming on next week. And we'll have a good chat with him and catch up. His WebBot program has been predicting a lot of things as well. And he's been exposing, believe it or not, people in the alternative media. And who else did it? Michael Vara from the late night radio show. I think it's called the Late Night Radio Show. I'll check it up there. I don't know whether you can find that, Steve. I'm just going to have a look here to see if I can find
Michael Vara, V-A-R-A.
Yeah, it's called Night in the Midlands. LateNightInTheMidlands.com is the website. And he's a host on that. We've asked him to come on. I've emailed him and asked him to come on because he's been exposing or talking about people that are in the alternative media. And he has some information to go against what they've been saying. And even Thomas said that on the Truth on Integrity show, that more and more people in the alternative media will be exposed. The people who are at the forefront, getting all the promotion, getting all the publicity, you have to kind of watch out. And people like ourselves who are kind of struggling, and what we would do with, like we know David Icke got 300,000, raised over 300,000 for the TV show, which just went bang. Anyway. What we would do with 300,000, good God, we could do in a hell of a lot with. But there you go.
We'd bring you all out for a slap-up meal, I can tell you.
Some of that will go on the pub crawl, will it?
Most of it, I think.
So we buy a few beers, but not in the hotel I was at last night. Too expensive. We'll have to brew our own, or we're going on off license. Too expensive. So Cliff High is on next week, and there's no other news. As I said, if you want to have a look at the raised bed, pop over to our Facebook page. You don't have to have a Facebook login to see the OYM Facebook page. It's facebook.com/OYM Internet Radio. And you can have a look at all the stuff that we've posted up there. Plus we've sent an email out as well. It might be an idea, as Stan said, and I'd like to do a part 3 with Stan regarding EMPs and CMEs, because if we are going to get to the stage where getting food is hard, the more self-sufficient you are, the better. The more things that you can grow your own stuff. And I'm only experimenting. I don't have green fingers, trust me, but I'm just giving it a try to see how I get on. And if things go well, then I'll plant other stuff. Now, as a neighbour of mine who has been very helpful with me, and she and her husband are experts at growing food. They talk about missing the season because it's late in the season, it's late in the summer. When you're planting the likes of spuds and stuff like that, you should be doing it in March and all. But I just said, look, I'm going to plant them and let nature take its course. If they don't work or they don't grow, then that's fair enough. You know, let's give it a go and see what happens. But if they do grow...
You know what I've actually done?
Go on.
You know scallions, or
Yeah.
spring onions, as
That's what
they're
they
known.
are. Spring onions outside, yeah.
Well, we had some last week, and you know the way they kind of start sprouting. And they kind of went off in the fridge. They weren't eaten. And my wife said to me, "Will you chuck them in the bin?" And I went outside to put them in the bin, and I noticed she had some plant pots that she had. She was getting ready for plants, but she hadn't actually got around to planting anything in them. So I just got the scallions, went over, bump, stuck them in the soil and walked away. And they started to grow.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. It's that easy.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, there is a bit of a science to it. I do think there is a science to it.
Yeah.
But I'm just experimenting just to see how things go. And if the cabbages grow and the carrots grow and I can pull them out and eat them. Even one of the lads down in the men's shed, Barry, said he's growing his own carrots. And he said, when you take them out and wash them and eat them raw, he said, the taste is fantastic compared to going down to your super value. So it's worth a try, guys. Even if you get one or two plant pots and put some compost in it and just try it and give it a go and see how you get on. Don't invest loads of money in it and just see what happens. But
that's all you need, though, isn't it? I mean, a small plant pot, window box, as they say.
That's it.
And a little bit of compost.
Yeah.
Whatever's going off, starting to sprout in your fridge or your whatever, just stick it in and see what happens.
If you get if you have a bottle of water. Or a 5-litre bottle of water, cut the top off, put compost on it and use that as a plant pot.
Yeah.
You don't actually have to buy a plant pot. Just put holes on the bottom for drainage. Okay, we have to go. For myself, Alan James, take it easy. I hope you enjoyed the show. Next week we have Cliff High. If you have any news for us, email us and let us know. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, from myself, Stephen George, it's been good information. It's only information. Just put it on the back burner or on the shelf and revisit it some other time. You know, it's we're not trying to force anything down anyone's neck. I know some people viewed the information on tonight's show as quite interesting. Some people viewed it as science fiction. Who knows? We don't know. We just put it out there and let you soak it up and do with it what you wish. Okay, if you're going to be hanging around for more, Vin is up next on People's Internet Radio. We're going to sever the stream now. We'll be back with you next Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. GMT. So have a great week, everybody, and thanks from all of us here at OYM. Bye-bye.